Happy Thursday. It's been a minute. It's been actually a very long time since I have gone live. I apologize, guys. I have been busy being a mommy and working on my master's in theology. I have just been working on life. It looks like there's something on my neck. Maybe there's a filter on here. I don't know. Anyways, I'm here to talk about herpes. Anything you would like to know. I was diagnosed with herpes in 2011 with genital HSV2 and oral herpes in 2003. So I've been living with herpes for 20 years. It's been a very, very long time. And I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to talk about what it's like living with herpes and how we can go through there. So I've been talking publicly about this since 2017, so a very long time, and that's why I created this community. It's a life with herpes, and it's your repository of information when it comes to being diagnosed, how to deal with outbreaks, how to prevent outbreaks, how to speed up recovery, how to disclose to a partner, what type of supplements you can take to help reduce the amount of outbreaks, or to help speed up recovery of outbreaks, products you can use, all sorts of things like that. So if you've been on one of my lives before, you know that I will get hundreds of questions from you guys. I do my very, very best to go through them one by one and answer you one by one. So if you do have a question specifically about living with herpes, go on ahead and ask those questions now before lots of people jump on so I can get to them. Some typical questions. I was just recording a podcast and somebody asked me, they're like, wait, you can have herpes up here and herpes down there and it's the same thing? And I said, yes. So what a lot of people don't realize is cold sores, fever, blisters are herpes. They are contagious, and they not only are contagious mouth to mouth, but they are contagious mouth to down there. So when we're doing things with our mouth, with our partners, we can accidentally transmit herpes to our partner genitals. And so this happens all the time, and unfortunately, people are not aware of this. I'll talk to people that have been in long-term monogamous relationships, whether it's marriages or dating relationships, and they're like, I don't understand. How do I have this now? That's how we have it. Is a lot of times our partner is not aware that they have oral herpes, and so they accidentally transmit it genitally. Why do antibodies go away and come back? I'm not aware that they go away. Typically we have the way that herpes virus, what we know at this point with the herpes virus. So this is something that, and I say that because technology changes and we're able to go deeper within science, and we have, more methods in order to find out information. So about 40 years ago, we didn't have the technology to be able to say that, hey, there's two types of herpes. There's HSV1, HSV2. Now we have the ability to, look at the viral DNA and tell there's type 1 and type 2. So why do antibodies go away and come back? I'm not sure of why that would happen. I know that every time we get outbreaks, our body creates more antibodies, so you can have a higher antibody load. But other than that, I don't have a science background, so I can't totally answer that for you. I have talked to people in our secret society, in our herpes community, where they have gone negative. They have tested negative for herpes. And that is because they did a very, very, very clean, high lysine, low arginine diet, and their bodies were able to go negative. But that doesn't mean they don't have herpes. They still have herpes. They have it. You will have it for life. It's something that at this point, we don't have the ability to remove the virus from our body, to remove us having herpes. So if you know somebody that has herpes, if you have herpes and you're watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to share this with that person, please do so. It's going to be such a help. I am here sharing my life, and the reason why I'm sharing my life is so that other people don't have to go through what I went through. When I was first diagnosed, it was absolutely terrifying. It was absolutely stigmatizing, suffocating, isolating. I felt like nobody understood what I was going through, and this is why I talk about this. How can we transfer to somebody else? You hear two stories. So it's skin-to-skin transmission. So you could say this hand has herpes and this hand has an outbreak. It touches this hand, it's skin-to-skin transmission. So it's not necessarily transmitted through objects. However, it still is possible. It's not transmitted through any other body fluids. However, body fluids can be a vehicle in which it gets transmitted. So let me explain. Here I have my peppermint tea. I just took a sip. Let's say I had a big outbreak on my mouth. I took a sip right here. You can see my lipstick. Let's say I give it to you right after. That's a way it can be transmitted. Let's say I'm using my saliva as a lubricant. Let's say I have a big cold sore, using my saliva as a lubricant. When I go to spit or whatever it is I go to do with my saliva, it then touches the cold sore. It then has the viral DNA in the saliva and it goes to a partner's wherever it goes. So that's another way it can be transmitted. So there are objects that can be vehicles. However, you take a sip of this, you come back hours later, no, the chance of it being transmitted is going to be pretty hard. So it is skin to skin. If you have an open wound, it's even better. Like, it's an opening, there you go. So that's kind of how it gets transmitted. What other stories were you hearing? You're saying you've heard a couple stories. Why do you think they test negative? I believe some people test negative because either they have not developed the antibodies. It takes our bodies a while to develop antibodies, or they haven't had outbreaks in a while and they're living a high lysine diet, or they have a cleaner diet. But if you are testing negative, but you do get outbreaks, I've talked to people that get outbreaks but still test negative, I would go with that positive result because you are getting outbreaks. Your handle is wild. Thanks, breadwinner. Yeah, this is here. I'm just here to educate people. 80% of the population has herpes, and yet we are stigmatized, ostracized. We make fun of people with it when a lot of times we have it too. So I'm just here to help educate. Positive for HSV1 IgGs was 159 level, 29 years old. I never had a cold sore in my life. I'm so confused. So I am not a doctor. I can't really say like, oh, well, your levels are this and da-da-da. If you tested positive, if your results say positive on it, then you are positive. You do not have to have an active outbreak in order to be positive for herpes. So if you tested positive via a blood test for HSV1, you don't know, you never had an outbreak, you don't know if you have it oral or if you have it genital. So just because it's HSV1, it does not mean it's oral. Just as many people are getting genital HSV1. So at this point, you don't know yet where you have it. If you've never had an outbreak, that's awesome. And it is something you need to disclose to partners because you can unfortunately still transmit it without an outbreak. So it's only when they have an outbreak they can pass it. No, you can still, so obviously we have an outbreak, you're contagious, like duh, right? Like you have an active outbreak, there's viral DNA in that blister, of course. You can also transmit it when the virus is shedding. So shedding is typically asymptomatic. People do not know that they are shedding. That's the unfortunate thing. Or if you're experiencing prodrome, like the itchy tingle, any things like that, like nerve pain, you could potentially be contagious. So that's when we are contagious. It's unfortunate that when we do shed, we don't know that we're contagious. I'm sorry, did you say skin to skin? I did say skin to skin. So herpes is transmitted skin to skin. And so it could be oral, it could be genital, things like that. I've had no outbreaks ever and got a 1.5 test result. Then a month later, 10, but again, nothing. So that's great that you're not getting outbreaks. You still are positive for herpes. I stress because I don't know when I'm viral shedding or have prodrome symptoms. I feel like you're always contagious. So we don't know when we are shedding. That's one of the way it is. I understand what you're saying, like you feel like we're always contagious or something like that matter. It's your body. You have to be able to touch your body. You can't be scared to touch your body. We are humans that want a human affection. We want to touch other people. Other people have herpes as well. I still cuddle and hug and kiss and do all the things with my son because I feel that it's going to be more harmful for him not to experience that with me than it would be for me, like, oh, well, I might give you herpes. So that's something I personally am okay with. What happens with pregnancy and herpes? So while you're pregnant, the baby is unharmed or protected. It's in utero, it's skin to skin. So once the child leaves the womb, the child is exposed to everything in life. So it can be exposed to you potentially having genital herpes, or it can be exposed to, you know, you kissing your child with having oral herpes, or grandma or grandpa kissing child with oral herpes. So we have this big, like, oh my gosh, I have genital herpes. How am I gonna have a baby? Well, once the baby comes out, the baby's exposed to everything. So we put a lot of emphasis on the birth, and while that is a concern to potentially deliver a child with an outbreak, that would be a problem, right? We don't want to do that. We'd have a cesarean at that point, but it's still possible to have a vaginal birth. I had a vaginal birth. Thank you guys for the hearts. I love the hearts. I see them. So thank you for doing that. And like I said, if you know somebody that has herpes, or you have herpes, that's why I'm here. I'm here to share my life. I'm here to answer questions. I've been living with this since 2003, so I'm pretty rehearsed in it. Is shedding actually dried skin coming off? No, it's just the virus shedding. So I like to use the example, like if I were to put my hand through my hair, I got a hair out, I don't know if you can see it, everything sheds. So the virus sheds just like we shed, like trees drop leaves, like flowers drop petals, all that. So the virus wants to shed itself. No, we don't have any, like, there's no symptoms of it. Thanks, Lauren, but the doctor said it's not necessary to tell people that you have HSV1, is you never see physical outbreak, only HSV2 you disclose. So that's actually incorrect. Regardless of having HSV1 or HSV2, it's important to disclose to a partner, because you can still transmit it, whether it's sexual or not sexual. It can still be a sexually an STD if you are doing things. So regardless of one or two, you still need to disclose. That's kind of the old mindset of like, if you have one, you don't need to disclose, because like everyone has it and it's not the bad one, right? So there's no good or bad herpes. It can still be transmitted sexual or non-sexual. My OBGYN had me taking acyclovir 3 weeks before delivery. Yeah, I actually took valcyclovir before my delivery and was able to have a vaginal delivery. Do I still get outbreaks 20 years later? Are you type 1 or type 2? So I have both types. I have type 1 oral and type 2 genital. Type 1 oral, I've really never, in 20 years, I've had 4 outbreaks. I really don't get them often. It's not an issue in my life. Genital, I do get genital outbreaks. I've had that since 2011. So I do get genital outbreaks from time to time, typically when I'm stressed, lack of sleep, have a lot to work to do, like that type of stuff I do. Can smoking with a person with herpes, can it give it to someone who doesn't have it? Yes, if you have an active outbreak and you smoke and pass whatever it is that you're smoking to that person, that can be a vehicle in which it's transmitted. Does herpes affect pregnancy? It does not affect the pregnancy. It would just be a conversation you need to have with your doctor for delivery. What does it look like? It can look like, it's a great question. For some people, they're asymptomatic. They don't have any symptoms. For some people, it can be one blister. For some people, it can be a cluster of blisters, and other people, it can be a paper cut. So that's why a lot of times it gets misdiagnosed, or people never get diagnosed, because they're like, well, I had a little paper cut, and then 5 years later, I had a paper cut. It's not herpes, right? It actually can be herpes. How do you conceive a pregnancy? You have sex, like everything's normal. We think that once we have herpes, like we can't have a normal intimacy, we can't do things normally. I personally went through IVF. It had nothing to do with me having herpes. It had everything to do with just infertility, which had nothing to do with herpes. So you just go about it normally. There's millions and millions and millions of couples out there that have herpes and have babies. If you are positive and haven't had an outbreak, but do you still experience viral shedding? Yes. So even if you're positive, never had an outbreak, you still shed the virus. I did a blood test 2.5 months after and no outbreaks. Blood was negative. Is that accurate? So if you've never had an outbreak and have a negative blood test, then yeah, I'd go with that test of saying that you're negative. I've had it for 2 years now via blood test results, no outbreaks yet. Does that mean that I may never? Yeah, you may be asymptomatic. Most people are asymptomatic for herpes. Do antivirals knock down your chances of passing it? If so, how much? Yes, antivirals lessen the transmission rate by 48%. You have phallus I don't know what that is on my thighs, so I can't tell if my legs have an outbreak. How do you tell the difference? Again, it should be like a tingly and itchy, like a painful blister where you can like feel the nerve pain. So it's one blister, a cluster of blisters, or like a paper cut. What's the best way to get tested? If you have an outbreak, go get that swabbed, or you can ask for a blood test. So those are some ways to get tested. How do you know you're shedding with no outbreaks? Unfortunately, you don't know you're shedding. You have psoriasis, so it's hard to tell. So I don't know, I don't have psoriasis, but I believe herpes is more of like a fluid-filled blister than psoriasis is more like a dry blister, I think. How good is lysine? I take lysine daily. In fact, this is the type I take. Oops, I don't have it here. I take monolaurin and I take lysine. I take angiographis. Angiographis is specific for the herpes virus. Monolaurin is going to help you with enveloped viruses, which herpes is an enveloped virus. And then lysine from the same company I take, and lysine helps block the replication of the herpes virus. So all three of these are extremely powerful. I have them linked for you. Make sure you use the code LWH to get 10% off. I use these daily. And they've all helped me boost my immune system, and they're awesome. How effective are antivirals? I don't have an efficacy percent, but they do lower the chances of transmission by 48%. So they do help with preventing outbreaks. They do help or speed up the recovery. Oh, sorry, I can't pronounce it. Looks like pimples to be simple. So I would say herpes is more of a fluid-filled blister. Again, if you have questions, ask a dermatologist. I like to use Herpalert. They are a telehealth company. You can always submit an image to Herpalert, and a doctor, a dermatologist will look at it and they can tell you based on what they see, what they think it is. Does my partner have it? No, my husband does not have herpes. I've been with him, I don't know how long. I think since 2014. I think that's how long I've been with him. Can you take antivirals and the pills? You can. Obviously, always ask a doctor if you have questions. The antivirals are a drug. It's something that's prescribed by your doctor. These are just supplements. So these are things that you naturally get, well, not angiographis, but monolaurin and lysine are things that you naturally get in foods that we consume. It's just adding supplements to our body. Is it safe to take the antiviral every day? I can't really answer that because I'm not a doctor. I personally do not take it daily because I didn't want to be taking a drug every day. Many people do. Many people take it daily. So you can decide. These are the supplements I personally take. My IgG is negative now. Does that mean I'm good? No, if you've been positive for herpes, then it means that you're positive for herpes. Your daughter is struggling to eat or drink. She must have oral herpes. I would say just use a straw. They do go away, and it does go away. It does go away. You have it for life, but the blisters do go away. Any disclosure tips? Diagnosed in January. You haven't dated since. I'd recommend waiting until you're ready to be intimate with the person. We don't need to disclose until we're ready to expose them. So you can, get to know the person and see if they're even worthy of knowing. And we talk about this. I do have a toolkit you can download where I have 16 different videos on how to disclose. We do talk about this a lot in our secret society. So we talk about this practically every Monday. We have 2 calls a week. We talk about this every single day or every single call. Why are you skipping my question? I haven't seen your question, Ariana. If you ask it again, I will do it. I got diagnosed with type 1 and type 2 without asking for the test. Now I'm confused. It might have been included in your STI panel. It typically is not included, but it must have been part of a blood test. Ariana, I don't see your question. So if you want to ask it again, I can answer it. Like I said, I go in order. So a lot of times, What do you do? What do you take to reduce the chances of passing it? I take monolaurin, I take lysine. I take these things to help boost my immune system. Lysine is extremely powerful in helping block the replication of the herpes virus. It's a protein. It's something we get in foods from like fish, from dairy, from potatoes. So I eat those foods. I also take these supplements. I have type 1, but not on my mouth. Yeah, so a lot of people have type 1 genitally. How can you be a carrier without any symptoms? How long can you be a carrier without any symptoms? You can be positive for herpes and be asymptomatic for your entire life. People can go decades without ever knowing that they have it. Why? My question is, how long do you wait after an outbreak to be intimate with your partner? So like the CDC or WebMD is going to tell you a week. For me, I leave it up to my husband. At this point, my husband's at the point of he doesn't care if he gets it. He doesn't want it, obviously. He's not like seeking it. So when I have an outbreak that is cleared up, I let him know. And usually we wait about 24 hours. And for me to say when it's cleared up, I no longer feel the sensation and the blister is healed. So that's personally for me. Again, the CDC is going to be going to tell you a week. Yeah, Ariana, I went through, I never saw your question, so it must have been filtered. So thanks for re-asking it. Why do I get outbreaks on my arms if I have type 2? You must have been infected on your arms. If we had like open cuts, it might have gone there. It might have gone there during your initial diagnosis. I feel like I cut it way too close after an outbreak with my boyfriend. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not, you just don't know. There's times don't think I have an outbreak and then I have sex and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I did. Or we'll be intimate and then later that day I'll get an outbreak. It happens. So far my husband has been good to go and has not tested positive for it. You can have it internally and not see it. Yes, you can have it vaginally and not know. So you can have it on your cervix and not know that you have it. So that happens to a lot of women. They get it on their cervix and they never know they have it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate this. I appreciate being here. I've missed not seeing you all. I'm going to do everything to be more interactive with you all. Like I said, I'm a mommy. I'm working on my master's. I have another business. I have a jewelry business. So I not an excuse to be here with you, but I do my best to be present and give you my all when I am here. Thank you for the follows. If you know anybody that has herpes, this is an awesome place to be. I have dedicated since 2017 making Life with Herpes a repository of information. I have like 800 different videos. I have a community with people all over the world and TikTok and all this fun stuff. So I will see you guys soon. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Have a great day, you guys.